For today's review, we are looking at the Best Actions TMNT Dark Leonardo figure. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't recognize this version of Leonardo at all. I don't keep up with the majority of the TMNT comics, so I do apologize about that. If you do know where this version of Leonardo originates from, feel free to share that in the comments below if you want to. Now, the reason why I picked up this figure is because I like the overall design of how this figure turned out. I think he's pretty cool, and he comes with a good amount of accessories. And on top of that, I did find this at Ross 1 to 2 weeks ago for $10, which is not a bad deal for an action figure, especially since a lot of action figures now have gone up in price a lot more than $10. Alright, with all that said, before I dive into talking about the accessories and of course the figure, let's take a quick look at two different things. Let's start with the packaging. Now, if you do collect the Best Actions TMNT line, you will recognize this box. Majority of the figures I have seen from this line do come in this sort of packaging style. It's the same box, just a different color. In this case, it's just all green, which is really cool because I like this color green. And of course, you have that big window in the front where you can see the figure front and center with all the accessories that it does include. Now, this version is called the Comic Noir edition, I guess, because that's what it says right there on the side. And of course, you do get that Best Action sticker included. And on this side, it says limited edition collector card inside. So we'll take a look at that as well. And what I like about the packaging for these figures is that they use this sort of like container style packaging. I don't know what to call it. It's the same way as how most import figures are packaged, where you remove that top plastic layer and you just take the figure out with all the accessories. And the cool part is, if you want to put this figure and all the accessories back into the box, you can. And then just store it back in. It is way better of a packaging style than this. Because every time I take these figures out from the DC Multiverse boxes, you have to fight with the packaging. You have to cut those, whatever those plastic wires are. It is not fun. And also, if you want to store the figures back in the box, it's just not optimal compared to the packaging that they use for this. So I do like that. Now, let's take a look at the side of the box. You do have this nice artwork of Dark Leonardo. And on this side, you have another artwork, but it is blocked by that Ross sticker. But I will show what that artwork looks like because it's also on the card. On the back, you do have this render of the figure, and it does show all the accessories that are included, which is pretty cool. And another thing that I noticed is that they always credit the artists that they took the design from, because it's based on this artist's art style for these designs. So that's pretty cool that they do that. So all right, and that is the box. Now, let's take a look at the limited edition collector card. So as you can see, it is printed in this more matte finish paper material, which is pretty cool. And that's the artwork that is on the other side of the box, which is really cool, as you can see right there. I like this. And on the back, there is a little bio, which is pretty cool. And it reads, Dark Leonardo served as Shredder's enforcer during the citywide takeover of organized crime. Under direction from Kitsune, Shredder commanded Leonardo not to take the lives of any of his opponents, perhaps knowing that this would be enough to shake him from the witch's control. I don't know what the story's about, so I do apologize about that, but that is pretty cool. So I guess he's not evil? I'm not too sure. But that is the little bio card of some kind, whatever you want to call that. And now let's talk about the accessories that are included with this figure. And let's start with the ones actually on the figure. So as you can see, he got a good amount of accessories on here that are actually removable. So you have the interchangeable hands, right? So you have this crazy claw-like sword hand, whatever the heck this thing is called. And the whole thing with this is that these blades can retract. Not actually retract, sadly, on the figure. It can't do that. Imagine if it did have a play gimmick like that. That would be pretty cool. But the point is that this is supposed to be one of those kind of weapons where it can retract back inside this gauntlet thing here. And as you can see, the straps here, there are these two smaller sort of swords, whatever you want to call these, and they are removable. So you can actually take this out. So that's pretty cool. And he can hold it. So that's another cool thing right there. And I think the sheaths are removable from these straps, because I know the ones for the back part are removable, so I'm assuming it's the same for the front. So, but I'm not going to take those off because it seems like a hassle to put back on. He does come with a gripping item hand, so this is meant to hold his sword weapon. So there's that, and of course this acts as a fist hand for the left arm. Now in terms of other accessories, let's start with some hands. So he does have another set of these claw hands, whatever they're called. So this is what happens when the blade is retracted. So if he's not using the blade and is retracted back into the gauntlet, he has two of these. So he has this open gesture hand of some sort, which is pretty cool. And he also has an item gripping hand for the left arm. So you can have him dual wield both of his swords, because that is what Leonardo is known for, right? His signature weapon is his katana blades. So you do get those. And then for his right arm, he has a... I just dropped one of those accessories. So he has a gripping hand, as you can see, or not really a gripping hand, it's just an open gesture hand, actually. So he does have that. And he also comes with another fist hand. So this is the fist hand for the right arm. So that's pretty cool. And those are all the interchangeable hands. So in total, you get 6 interchangeable hands. He also comes with these accessories. So this is the sort of strap, because you know he's wearing the eye mask. This is to allow it to look like it's tied up and have this windswept motion. And the reason why there's 2 of these is because he does have an alternate head sculpt. So let's start with this first one. As you can see, he's very serious looking. He's not smiling. You know, he just looks really angry, kind of. Well, he doesn't really look angry. He just looks like he's just not in the mood. That's what this looks like to me. And then for his alternate head sculpt, that's an angry expression. Like he's about to do something to his enemy, right? He's in rage. So there's that. And last but not least, when it comes to accessories, of course, he has to have his signature weapons. He has 2 of these katana blades. And what I love about this the most is that in total, he got like, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weapons. Okay, this is pretty freaking cool. And I like the fact that these also come in sheath. So if you don't want him using his swords, you can store them back in. That is so freaking cool. So these are actually really well thought out accessories for this figure, which, you know, that's the cool part about this. And that is basically everything you get in this box. So, all right, now let's talk about the figure and its aesthetics. I like the colors of this. Now, I know most people who don't recognize this are going to be like, why is he in this color? And I think it's because it's the whole comic noir thing. I think that's what it means, because whenever I think of the word noir, I think of Spider-Man Noir. And if you've seen Spider-Man Noir in, what was it, Into the Spider-Verse, you know how his colors are like black and white? I think that's what this means. So the reason why he looks this way is because the art style for this particular comic is supposed to be done in black and white. Now, he does have a little bit of that red accent, but, that's pretty cool to make the straps at least stand out, right? So I do like that. And, yeah, he has this really cool body armor of some kind that's meant to protect him. He has this scarf, and I like the fact that it's very textured. It's similar to how McFarlane sculpts some of their stuff, too, which is pretty cool. And he has a strap right here that goes all the way to the back right here, where, this is where he stores his other weapons. And as you can see, his turtle shell is in the black color, but the sculpting of the details is also pretty freaking good, so I do like that. And yeah, I like the colors. It's not a bad sort of color scheme here because, there is a little bit of contrast. Now, this bottom part of his shell, whatever this flat side is on the front part, it is a brighter color, which is interesting. And this is the only area that kind of has this, I think. I don't see any... Oh, and I guess the arm up here is a little bit brighter too. But yeah, not too bad. And down here, by his feet and his legs, he is wearing some sort of... I wouldn't call them pants, but, some sort of material that's like wrapped around. You have all this texturing and all that stuff. So overall, the sculpt details of this figure is actually pretty cool. I like this. I think this line in particular, the figures actually look good. I've seen some of the other best action figures from their other lines that they make, but you know, they don't really appeal to me the same way as these ones. It feels like they really put more effort into these figures than they do with some of their other lines. So yeah, pretty cool. And I like the texturing and details that are, you know, everywhere on this figure. And that's pretty much it for aesthetics, because I don't really know what else to talk about. Oh, and I guess you got the logo right there. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, wait, no, not yet. We got the belt. Oh, let's talk about that belt, actually. Man, I'm fumbling today. So, you know, he got his old pouches right here, right? And he also has these, like, ninja stars. And on the back, he has these little grenades. I think they're like smoke grenades. So he can get out of there if he's, like, you know, caught up in a really bad situation. So, yeah, you got all these little details that are just present throughout the figure and his costume. So, yeah, pretty cool. And now let's talk about articulation. So the one thing that I've noticed with these figures is the fact that I don't know if it's just my copy or it's like every new figure, but for some reason his arms don't want to lift out. I have to heat these up, and I haven't had the time to actually heat this up at all. So technically his arm is supposed to be able to get into like a T-pose, but they're like really freaking tight, and I do not want to force that right now. So I'm just going to say that the articulation is there, because it is. I've tested it on one of the other figures and it actually works. That one was actually looser, but this one is like both arms just don't want to lift out, but they do work if you heat them up. In terms of his joints, he does have a swivel up here by the bicep. He does have double jointed in the articulation, as you can see, so it does work, right? Really good. He does have swivel in the hands right here. And there is an articulation in these joints, I believe, right? Yes, there is. They're like present, but they're like really freaking tight. So there's that. In terms of his head sculpt, you do have movement here. It doesn't really move the best. Like, he can look up a little bit. Not exactly. He can't really look down. Can he look down? Oh, he can't. But yeah, it's not the greatest. And in terms of the butterfly joints, they do move, as you can see. But again, there's really not enough room for the figure to really have any good dynamic range of movement, because like in this case, you can see how these blades will get in the way, right? Like they will hinder the articulation. So that is not good. In terms of his legs, he does have die cuts, as you can see right there. They are visible. They do move. He can kick out, not the best, unfortunately. I don't know if they have drop down. Is there drop down? No, there's no drop down. So yeah, that's as far as he's going to kick. In terms of double joints, they do have that as well. He does not have toe articulation, but he does have swivel down here by the feet, and he does have a little bit of an articulation in the feet. But again, it's not the greatest. So yeah, like this side works and then this side doesn't. So I do have to do some heating up. In terms of like a swivel for the waist, does it move? Let me see. Let me see if it moves. Okay, there doesn't seem to be like a rotation for the body. Like it doesn't seem to want to rotate here. Let me... No, I'm not seeing anything. Okay. Well, if it's there, maybe it's just like really stiff because it's a new figure. But yeah, that's about all the articulation for this figure. So yeah, not too much. So, you know, it has its flaws, but you know, you could probably still get them into some dynamic action poses if you get creative. So there's that. All right, let me show what some of these accessories look like on the figure, and then we'll do some comparisons. So let's put one of these straps on the back, and it's really simple. All you do is you just like rotate this inside the little like socket right there, and you just have to get it in. And once you get it in, yeah, it's good to go. So you got that. And then for these katana blades, all you do is you just like, I think you put it in like this. There's no instructions that were included to show you how to put these on. So I'm assuming they just go right in like this. And then that's all you do. Now, unfortunately, I won't be able to show these weapons in his hands, especially like one of these swords, because these hands are really stiff. Like, I have to heat these up if I want him to hold these swords in any way, so I'm not going to be able to do that. I've taken one of these figures out before. I think it was a Raphael figure, and I was trying to put the kunai in his hand, and it was like the worst thing to do. So yeah, that's like something you have to deal with if you do collect this line. And I've noticed a lot of these little things, but regardless of the flaws, I think they did a really good job with this figure, you know, because if you're not trying to collect like the NECA stuff, because the NECA TMNT figures are just like way too expensive and you want to go for something cheaper, I think these are not bad for that cheaper option. They're okay. But again, even for like the retail price of these figures, they are still costly too. So if you really just want a few of these and you're not like hardcore and you're just like me, where you're just a casual collector for TMNT figures, I would recommend picking these up if you do find them in Ross. And with that said, let's do some comparisons before we end today's review. Now I'm going to put them right here. Hopefully it doesn't fall. And let's bring in a few figures. So let's start off with, of course, the Jada Toys Street Fighter Chun-Li. And as you can see, they do scale okay. I think this works because, you know, the Ninja Turtles are not shorter than a human. I mean, it depends on the height of the human, I guess. Like, in terms of, like, Casey Jones, for example, he's definitely taller than the Turtles. But in terms of, like, April O'Neil, well, she's a little bit taller than them, but they're not, like, too short, right? So there's that. Here he is next to the Silver Age Superman from McFarlane Toys. And yeah, I guess this could also work depending on how you view it, but I feel like the McFarlane figure is way too big, so maybe this is way too off in terms of scale. Well, I think it actually is because it's way too tall. So yeah, and that is going to be it for the comparisons because I don't really have any other figures handy right now next to me. So all right, I hope you enjoyed today's review of this Dark Leonardo figure from the Best Actions TMNT line. If you found today's video enjoyable, do give it a like. If you want to subscribe to the channel for more action figure content and whatever else I do on here, you can. You don't have to. In the end of the day, I make these videos for fun. And with that said, take care, and I will see you in the next video.